What's up, everybody? Welcome to the VSM Real Estate Podcast, getting you closer to massively successful people in the Twin Cities real estate market. I'm your host, André Anderson. Today, joined by Scott Hoefler, owner of Side by Side Realty.
Yeah, great to be here, André.
Thank you. So welcome. I know a lot of people around the office have been wanting you to come onto our podcast for some time.
Wow.
Yeah, we were trying to.
It's flattering.
Yeah, exactly. And we were finally able to, lock you down to get you here. So excited to have you. For all the probably some people probably know that are watching already know who you are, but no, for those that don't, can you kind of give yourself a little bit of introduction and maybe what you're kind of doing right now, how you got into real estate?
For sure. I guess a little bit of our backstory is we purchased our first duplex in 2013.
Who's we?
We, my twin brother and I use we often because he's usually right next to me, and so I'm not going to say Drew if he's standing right here.
Yeah.
But this time you just have me. It's my twin brother, Drew Hoefler,
Yep.
and myself bought a duplex in 2013. We recently graduated college. He had moved up to the Twin Cities so that we can be near each other. Actually, let's rewind a little more. Postgraduate, we went to two different cities. I moved to Minneapolis. He moved to Nebraska. We found ourselves apart for about a year and a half and realized it's probably not the goal that we want, and we're better together. So He moved to Minneapolis, and we wanted to avoid paying rent. I think it's just our natural instincts to keep our living expenses low. So we were looking at single-family homes in South Minneapolis, rent out one bedroom, rent out two bedrooms to roommates, friends from college, and it'll pay for our mortgage. When we're telling our dad that story, he goes, "Why don't you guys buy a two-flat?" And that's what they call duplexes in Chicago.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so we're like, "Dad, what's a two-flat?" And then we realized it's a duplex, but with that came renters, and we didn't necessarily want to be landlords. We didn't know how to take care of properties the way a landlord in our eyes should take care of properties. But as we went through the process and looked at the numbers, and we realized, hey, if you can live in one side, rent out the other, it actually at the time covered our mortgage. And so we pursued a duplex in an up-and-coming area called Northeast Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah.
And
definitely a good area.
Yeah.
For
and
sure.
Dangerous Man was a thought at the time. Breweries had just started moving into town. So it's that deal went so well. We rented the upstairs unit out to friends of ours, and Drew and I lived in the downstairs unit living for free. And we're like, wow, that's cool. How about we try this again?
Yeah.
And so we decided, okay, let's buy one a year from there on out. And that's what we started doing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where are you guys originally from? Do you say Chicago?
Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he went to Nebraska, but you decided to come to Minneapolis.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in 2010, we graduated in the heart of the recession. Super hard to find jobs.
For sure.
Actually, for the first few months after graduating, we were handymen for apartment buildings.
Oh,
and
nice.
so we did turnovers, we pulled carpet, we fixed small jobs, and then took care of the grounds around the apartment buildings. And who knew that would be a foreshadow into what we would be doing as our life calling. The foray.
Into real estate.
So getting paid $10 an hour, we're like, well, okay, this works for now, but I had to get a big boy job.
Right.
I graduated. They said 401ks, smart, W-2s, cool. So I wanted a salary. And being from Chicago, I didn't really want to go back. I kind of want to spread my wings and find something else. So Minneapolis, Land O'Lakes seemed like it was the only place hiring at the time. And Drew goes, "Hey, Scott, you got better grades than me. Why don't you go get a job, and then we'll live off your salary until I find one."
Excellent plan.
Great plan, Drew. You're always thinking. And so we did it. I landed a job with Land O'Lakes, making $45,000 a year, and I was rich. And Drew decided he was going to move up with me. So as he looked for jobs in town, he found a company here that actually gave him a job in Nebraska.
Interesting. Oh,
yeah.
That's why he moved down there.
And that's why he moved down there.
Ah, okay. So you both were actually going to hopefully be in Minneapolis.
That was our goal.
That was the goal. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know anything about the place, but
yeah, for sure.
Somebody offered me a job, so I moved here.
Yeah.
And fell in love with the city and my wife, and it's been great ever since.
Excellent. Yeah. And I would imagine that the cost of living was a lot less, back then, And
Yeah,
and especially
definitely.
much less than Chicago. So
Way less than Chicago. So
Yeah,
$45,000 goes a long way.
right, for sure, exactly. Yeah, in Chicago, you'd probably be like, you can't even.
No, I'd be living in my parents' basement.
Yeah, you can't even buy some bread,
No.
or whatever, right?
Milk's expensive there too.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, 2013 happened, 1 a year from there and out, and so the following year we started looking for our next duplex, and that's kind of where things change a little bit. Is I started doing really well at work. I met my wife Jenny. I started thinking, okay, there's things that I want to achieve, and real estate is actually taking up a lot of my time. Mm-hmm. So I turned to Drew and I go, hey, I'm done with this real estate thing. I think I have things going for me. And he goes, wait a second. We had an agreement. I was going to buy one. You were going to buy one, and we're going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Holding on one duplex is just a pain in the butt. So you can't back out now. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Drew. And so that very night, I went for a walk with my dog, popped in a podcast from Bigger Pockets, and I remember it was Bree from Chicago, and I could relate to her, being from Chicago. Mm-hmm. And she had created enough passive income to leave her sales job. And after 45 minutes of listening to that podcast, I came home to Drew, and I'm like, I'm all in, and I've been all in ever since.
So I was just like, nah, I'm not going to do it. And I'm
wait a second.
Yeah, let's definitely do this. Yeah.
And we started thinking, okay, in that walk, I started thinking, what are my goals for life? If I'm really serious about Jenny, I'm really serious about creating a life with her, and Drew and I are having fun together in this real estate. It was just and what I thought it was a distraction of what everybody around me was telling me I should be doing. Mm-hmm. I should be climbing the ladder, getting promotions at work, making more money. And after listening to somebody else debunking that conditioning that I was under, I started to realize there's something to this. I need to think differently to achieve these goals that I'm setting out for my life and for my family.
So it was kind of a moment of like self-reflection and just like being super self-aware of what you actually want.
100%.
And it allowed for that paradigm shift of all that past conditioning that you had, like others' expectations, like, what your parents wanted. Maybe even, you actually ended up, agreeing with Drew on this one, what Drew maybe wanted to do and whatnot. And just like, what do I actually really want to do?
What do I want?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I think oftentimes we drift into what other people want in our lives and want for us. And so we feel like, okay, if we're achieving what they want for us, we're achieving what we want. And that's not necessarily true.
For sure. Yeah. I know that there's this one quote by Jay Shetty or someone, and I remember Jay Shetty, you know of him?
No, I haven't.
It's this guy. He's kind of like a social media influencer. He has these like really like he's Indian, so he's like a little darker complexion, but he has like these bright blue eyes. But he's like always like doing like what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And one of the quotes that he says, and I can't remember where the quote is from, but I always just attribute it to him, and it's I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. So it's like that whole situation of like you're aligning what you want to do, what you think you want, and what you want to do with what you think other people want. So it's like that next level. It's not even sometimes it's what you think they want to do, right? Yeah. Which they might even be different.
And it's not malicious. It's not like they want anything bad for you. It's just it's just what they think life and what the meaning of life is, and they just shower it onto you because they want the best for you. But in reality, it's not exactly what you're looking for.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, in that moment of self-awareness, you're like, okay, let's go all in. So did you guys just kind of like come to the table and just like really hash out a good plan, some goals, all that kind of stuff? I feel like that's what you're kind of leading into here.
Yeah, beautiful question. And I think, so hitting our goal, 1 a year from there on out. And I remember sitting with somebody I really respect. He had a great family, really successful in his career, and I'm just sitting across from him at the bar, and I had some family around us, and he's like, so what are you doing with this property thing? And I'm like, well, Drew and my goal is to buy 1 a year from here on out. And he's like, that is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. And I was like, whoa.
Oh, no.
That is it? And then it's like, it automatically took me back, but that just goes to say that people around you
won't support you necessarily.
Won't support you, even if they love and respect you. It's not their dreams, and they don't know what it takes to get to your dream. And so they're gonna naysay, and if they've never done it, it's gonna feel weird to them, and they just don't understand. And so I think you're gonna face a lot of objection, good, right, or bad, if you're pursuing something that other people around you aren't necessarily looking for. Right. And so that was a huge pivotal moment for me is I just got challenged on something that I'm pursuing, and how strong is this pursuit to overcome that challenge from somebody I really respect. And
For sure.
And I definitely overcome it. Drew and I sat down and was like, we don't really have a reason why we're buying one a year. Like, that's just a thing. And so a mentor of ours challenged us. Is like, you guys need to think bigger. Is like, this is just a hobby for you right now, but you got to have a stronger why behind what it is. After reading Traction, I don't know if you've read it yet.
Yeah. Great book.
So I read it, and Drew would say I gave him this Cliff Notes.
I feel like that's a common theme here.
It is a common theme here.
Hey, you're smarter. Tell me all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, he's a lot more ambitious than I am, and I just am a little more studious.
Yeah.
So I read through Traction. We sat down for 4 hours and figured out, okay, what are our goals? And then once we rolled out of that, we realized, hey, we can create this real estate into a business rather than just a hobby. And so after the 4 hours, we decided, okay, how do we get to where we want to be in life? And we decided 22 properties by the time we're 32 will help us to get enough financial freedom that we can actually choose the lifestyle that we're looking to achieve. And we won't necessarily be retired. I'm not going to sit back and watch Dancing with the Stars like Brandon Turner says, but I will have creative control over what I do every single day.
For sure. Yeah. And getting to that point is just phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of freedom, and it affects all areas of your life. So now that I have Weston, and I can start thinking about, okay, what kind of life do I want to create for our family? Because I now have the capacity to do it because I have the time. So yeah, after that 4-hour session, Drew and I like 22 properties by the time we're 32. Let's go.
Boom. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so at the time we were both working for Land O'Lakes. We were joking earlier that we were about an arm's length away at a big corporation. We were commodities traders, which at the time we thought we were really cool.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
You know?
It's a job that we aspired to get, and we landed it, and we're like, what now? Crap. And so he made the leap first, like he always does, and I follow off of his mistakes or successes, and I tweak it a little more. And but he went and worked for Renters Warehouse.
Oh, okay, excellent.
And he became a leasing agent for them. So he's like, I'm going to learn the world of real estate from the rental and leasing side. And a year later, I decided to join Kim Burke and her team at Leader One from a financial side and become a mortgage lender.
Yeah, you guys are just like going headlong into it.
Head on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that was the pivotal shift. It went from hobby to business. So somebody presented, I run a group here in town called the Millennials Real Estate Millennials Investor Focus Group. And it's a local meetup that meets every third Tuesday of the month. And we have a ton of investors with the similar mindset that we have, sharing resources and bouncing ideas off each other. But somebody presented Brian Doyle about 2 years ago, and he goes, real estate's a big industry. If you want to do it full time, find a job in it. You can become a lender, you can become a real estate agent, you can become an underwriter. There's so many things you can do. And he's like, for me, I sell blinds to apartment buildings. I buy apartment buildings. And it was just like, whoa. And now he's talking to owners of apartment buildings. He gets the inside scoop of if they're going to sell, because he's asking the right questions, because he's exposed to the right people who have the thing that he wants to have.
For sure. And on a daily basis.
On a daily basis.
Yeah.
And for somebody else, he's like, you just sell blinds. He's like, I'm strategic about why I'm selling blinds.
Right.
And so Drew, leasing agent, rental experience, Scott, mortgage lender, financial experience, and then coming together, it gives us even more exposure to the market and knowledge and expertise.
For sure. Yeah, that's awesome. I kind of had a similar thing joining VSM. It was, hey, I really want to get into investing, but I actually really don't know much about real estate at all. I'm like, what would be a good way to go about it? Well, kind of figure out a little bit on leasing, what's that like, doing brokerage, and kind of learning all the pieces of the puzzle. I think that's actually one of the best ways for somebody that's looking to get into real estate. If they're young, they don't have like a family at the time, of course, and they're just like looking to get into it. Yeah, just get into the industry, whatever you can kind of get your hands on and learn, even if it's like a part-time job or, just start out somehow.
For sure, 100%.
So,
and I think it's important to know that you do have skills that apply to real estate. No matter what walk of life you come from, what degree you have. A lot of people are limited by, well, I didn't study that in college. Bullshit.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter anymore.
Doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
I think John Maxwell said that the shelf life for a college degree is 6 years now.
Yeah.
Which blows my mind.
Or it's probably less, I feel like. You know what I mean? It's just like... Yeah, it's just what can you do for people for the most part?
100%.
And I think a lot of people are kind of becoming much more aware of that, So, yeah, I'm sure you didn't go to college really for, real estate or, anything specific, but what's giving you financial freedom. You know what I mean? Or that control over your creativity and where you want to bring your life and all your energy and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, and I think the 4-year degree is designed around security. So how do you land this 4-year degree job so that somebody will want to hire you for that, or 4-year degree, so that somebody will hire you when you graduate? And so you're saying this person only wants me because I have a degree in a field that doesn't necessarily apply to the position that they're hiring me for. And there's a huge disconnect there.
Right, for sure.
So I think it's around security, like job opportunities, secure salary. And I think that's what the beauty of real estate is. You can be an entrepreneur and hammer real estate and get a lot of rewards from it.
And you can still build stable income, much like, what you're doing with buying rent and accumulating rental properties.
True.
Of course there's risk and all that kind of stuff, right? But like it much more stabilizes, especially if you're in a sales career, much like a leasing agent or working part of like a mortgage lending team. You know what I mean? It all is sales driven. So
yeah,
but
definitely.
You can have both the best of both worlds. You have that stable income once you get, a good amount of properties, have passive cash flow, but you can just hammer away at the sales job and like really get that high, potential income growth.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Yeah.
And that's
you guys went about it awesome.
And that's what allowed us to leave our corporate jobs, is we have this passive income coming in. We're living for free, and we turn to each other as like, okay, it's a little bit of a risk, but it's what we want to do long term. And so I think his job was commission based. He wasn't guaranteed a paycheck, and for me, I was making $17 an hour working as an assistant for a mortgage company.
Yeah,
like that is definitely 3 steps backwards. But because I was in the space that I felt I had a passion for it and I had purpose, I ended up making more in that first year than I did when I was at Land O'Lakes making a salary off of $17 an hour, because I was incentivized. There's like things that come with it, but mostly because I was in the place I was meant to be.
Right, for sure. So what were one of the biggest challenges in that first year? I would imagine, especially if you're kind of coming from a salary into like or maybe you and your brother were kind of moving more towards like incentivized positions or at least sales positions. What were kind of the biggest struggles that you found in that like maybe transition period, if you had any?
Yeah, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart because I'm in love with my wife, Jenny. And I think if you are on the same page as your spouse and in a relationship with somebody, it's financially straining to make a risky risk with your career when you have bills to pay, you have student debt to cover, and you have housing expenses and all the good stuff. And eventually you might have kids that you have to think about. But I think for the biggest challenge and the biggest reward is working together so that we support each other in these career shifts and these big changes. And so immediately when I approached Jenny and I was like, hey, I'm really unhappy in my corporate world. I'm doing well, but it's just not fulfilling. I'm going to leave and make $17 an hour. That's hard.
Yeah, for sure.
And so for her to trust me and to know that this is the right move, and her to trust Kim, who was going to be my mentor and boss at the time, that was the right move, was huge for our family. And to know that I had the support. And now I talk about I can walk on water with Jenny's support. And
that's awesome.
And Drew too is like, so he had my support and I had his support. But he's kind of he's a free spirit and he loves to take on risk head on. Yeah. So he worked through it a lot better than I did. He loved the freedom of his schedule. And so, but a big challenge that we talk about with real estate professionals is if you leave a W-2 or salary position and you think you're going to buy more real estate, buy real estate before you do it.
Right. As much as you can.
As much as you can. Get to a point where you're like, okay, I think I've hit all my real estate acquisition goals. Now I'm ready to take a full-time commission-paid job, because you need 2 years of work experience to be able to qualify for conventional mortgages. Of course, you can do commercial and get creative financing and all that good stuff. Yep. But if you're looking to lock in 30-year fixed, buy some property before you leave your W-2 job.
For sure, yeah. Quick tip for everybody. Yeah, quick tip for everybody.
Because we think we're like, oh, I want to be in real estate full time. I quit. Shoot, I can't buy anything. Right. So that's just a common
misconception.
Common misconception
for sure. Yeah. But I mean, of course, definitely depends on, where you're at, what you think you can do, and how driven you are, because like that's not by no means like a hard obstacle. It is an obstacle for personal loan for a 30-year fix and everything. But if you have the hustle and you're doing like flips and you can get commercial lending and all that kind of stuff, and it works for you, and like the market is at a place for you to be able to do that, and you're growing your network and everything, then of course,
definitely.
But that's just so easy to get, like if you're already
so available,
it's so available. Exactly. Yeah.
And don't if you left your job, don't use it as an excuse to not play in the real estate world.
Way more important part. That's a huge
so
piece.
if you've already done it, there's definitely avenues for you to do. You just kind of gave up on the 30-year fix for a couple of years.
Yeah, just don't give up on yourself.
Don't give up.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah, exactly. You did it for a reason. Keep going. So as shifting careers and shifting focus into real estate comes with its risks, and I think the fact that we talk about is like partnerships are beautiful. Mm-hmm. They're beautiful in business. They're great in marriage. Strong partnerships are even better than just a partnership in general. And we've been lucky. Drew and I have been partners since the womb, doing life side by side. And I think the fact that we've had both of each other, and I remember my father-in-law hearing that we're going to start up side by side Realty, and he's like, "That is such an awesome idea." And we're like, wow, I think it is too.
Support.
Yeah, I got some support there. But he's like, it's so awesome because neither of you will allow the other one to fail.
Right.
And I think for us, that was to know that we had that person next to us that is lifting us up when we're failing, and was huge for making that shift into a new career and new life focus.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like you had mentioned Drew maybe is much more willing to take on risk and ambitious and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure kind of in the down times, whenever you hit some obstacles and whatnot, or during that transition, he probably helped you, like, no, it's okay, keep going. And then when times are, maybe when he's too ambitious or taking on too much, you help stabilize certain things, right? Is that kind of how it works with the dynamic duo?
For sure.
Kind of a thing?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah.
And you haven't even met him yet.
Yeah. I mean, him probably well enough to be able to talk about him and whatnot. So.
Oh yeah, that's exactly how it is. And it's cool because people meet us, you're the same person. We couldn't be more opposite than two people that weren't even related.
Right.
So it's great to approach business with the love and respect that we have for each other, but the knowledge that we both have a different set of skills. Mm-hmm. And even this winter, we were yelling at each other because we didn't see business the same way. Mm. And I think it's moments like that if you can have that it's not even a fight, but have that disagreement with a massive amount of respect behind it, and then come out better because of it. Mm. That's the wonder of our relationship in general, because we put each other first in every situation, whether it be money-wise, confrontation, success, whatever it is. We always say, okay, it's because of you that I'm here, and it's because of me that you're here, and vice versa.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of going through the grinder. You know what I mean? Like, it makes you so much more strong, all those obstacles in your way, as soon as you get through them, just come out the other side really, really strong.
100%.
So how close are you guys to your goal right now? You guys are making pretty good headway, yeah?
So we came out of that meeting saying we're going to buy 22 properties by the time we're 32, and we were 29, and now we have 15 properties. Mm-hmm. If we were to just say it was doors, we would have hit our goal already. So we're like, no, let's up it a little bit. Yeah. So if we buy a 20-unit apartment building, it's still only one property. Crazy. So we have 15 properties, 28 doors, and we're now 32, so I'm going to give myself until 33 to hit our goal. And we've got a big year ahead of us if we're going to make that happen. And even if we don't make it happen, falling short of that big ass goal was better than we would have been if we never set the goal to begin with.
Imagine if you're still at Land O'Lakes.
Imagine.
Yeah, just with that one property in Northeast Minneapolis.
Wow.
Yeah. Totally.
It's hard to
life.
believe. I get chills thinking about the change that has happened since then.
For sure. So what's kind of your plan then to make that monster goal kind of come to fruition this year?
Creative financing. We just did a big refi that allowed us to pull a little cash out. We've got some private investors looking at some of the stuff that we have going on. We've dabbled in the Milwaukee market, so we're looking at expanding our markets. But I think with the partnership that we have with Garrett Gordon, he's of Renters Warehouse, and then Drew, myself, is we bring a lot to the table, and not even just ourselves, but our networks and and the mortgage lenders that we have supporting us, and property management companies, and everything that goes into real estate. And that's what's awesome about our world, is that it's a very collaborative, sharing world. Like me and you sitting across from each other,
just talking all day,
sharing resources and ideas about property management and real estate growth. And I think we're at a point that we're ready to make a huge push. So I wouldn't be surprised if we bought a few properties on package, and we're looking at getting a little more creative this year than we have in the past.
That's awesome. So it looks like you're changing a little bit on the financing and lending side, maybe taking on some more partnerships. You already have, a beautiful partnership, but maybe you can grow that, to more strong connections that are outside and continue to grow and get that snowball rolling.
Definitely.
Are you kind of switching also property types? I know you mentioned getting into different markets. Milwaukee, I'm actually taking a look at Milwaukee too a little bit.
You?
Yeah, I'm in the beginning of it, but yeah. So are you thinking of changing maybe just with price differentials, getting into maybe larger units, multifamily, or switching into commercial at all, or anything like that?
Yes and no. Using commercial financing, definitely. We're looking at, we'd love mixed-use property. So residential on top, commercial on the bottom. That would be a big win for us. And we just want to dabble in the commercial world and what it means to lease commercial space out. And that's an area I just don't know much about. I've been in residential for so long. But on top of that is I think some investors are making a little bit of a mistake right now, is they're looking at their current portfolio and they're trying to offload it so that they can level up. And they're leveling up at a very premium market into premium types of properties that cap rates are pretty low. And I would argue that you've gotten so good at managing these smaller multifamily properties, continue to make them cash flow for you, and then leverage the cheap money out there to go after and level up. And for us is we found a really nice niche in these approachable duplex, triplex, fourplex style properties where you can still leverage 30-year fixed mortgages. So I land a mortgage now at 5%. I know what that property is going to cost me for the next 30 years. It's a beautiful thing. And so if rents support it now, rents are probably going to go up like they always do. But you can't bank on it. But to know that I have a fixed payment for the next 30 years is awesome. So we're probably going to stay in that smaller duplex, triplex, multifamily space just because we know it so well. It's what we specialize in, and we just become the best at it.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
So what are the plans for the future then? If there is like an end game, once you get to that 22 properties, not doors, but 22
properties,
right?
So there's long-term goals. Side by Side is in its infancy stage. We opened in April, and Side by Side Realty is the brokerage that we own, and we're growing that. There's 3 of us right now, and we're looking to add agents who believe that lifestyle and financial freedom can be achieved through real estate. And so if we can pull agents that embody that vision, but still have their own basic personal brand within the real estate investing world, we want to grow that team up. And awesome. Whether that be here in Minneapolis or we might expand to other markets. And like I said, we do have a pretty cool niche in the smaller multifamily properties. So we're going to stay in that area and maybe focus on other markets that also have a big inventory of that type of property. And I think we're sitting down actually in June. Drew and I turned to each other and we're like, we have this thing Side by Side. It's pretty cool. Got a nice brand. I mean, we're building it out. We have a business plan, but where do we do with it? Where do we go? And so we sat down with our business coach now, and we were looking for somebody to help us think bigger. Is Drew and I can oftentimes cap ourselves because I know his shortcomings, he knows my shortcomings, and we know that the other one's really skilled in some areas, but in general, we can just screw this big giant cap on each other and say, okay, this is about our peak, and where somebody else sits next to us, being like, you guys have so much more to give. Yeah. And so that's what he said. He's like, you got so much more to give. And so we are now growing Side by Side. And it's, awesome. We in general want to own property and want to own real estate, and Side by Side gives us that exposure and it becomes that machine for owning more property.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you're thinking maybe other markets too, huh? Apart from Milwaukee, or you're gonna maybe all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, expand would be great.
Okay.
And people get kind of hung up looking at other markets from more of a real estate acquisition perspective. And I think there's a lot of opportunity here locally. There's a lot of opportunity being in a hyper local market, a local investor investing in your backyard. Just last year, we bought a package of 3 duplexes that had enough equity to refi them into long-term 30-year fixed. Commercial on one side, long-term 30-year fixed, using the equity we built. with no money out of our own pocket. And I think that's a thing that we can do as local investors that not necessarily the coast can do. The West Coast, East Coast, if they're looking at investing in our area, that's just not a play that they can make, nor would they want to because it's so small.
Right.
And so since we're sticking in the small world, we're here, there's a lot of opportunity still in our local market that we think is just saturated or inflated, and we only know it's saturated and inflated because we're here.
Right, for sure. Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think a lot of bigger sticking kind of to the smaller multifamily really allows you a lot of advantages, such as of course the 30-year kind of fixed financing, but then usually bigger dogs aren't going after it as much, right? So even when you're starting to focus on that niche, you can still kind of run it all day long. Do you think it's a little harder to, of course, obviously, it's probably a little harder to, find deals and whatnot, but do you feel like you're working a little harder on the creative side, whether it be financing or maybe purpose for the property, or just kind of like adjusting your tactics or strategy when you're in the acquisitions process?
I think a lot of investors in this world are, in this small multifamily world, are finding forced equity that you can play or additional value that you can get out of these properties. And I've 2040 plans looming. Nobody knows what it's going to do. People have their speculations. People think for sure they know what's going to happen, but I don't know that it's even today fully realizes the impact that it's going to have. And we're not buying based off the 2040 plan, but knowing that there is some options out there
for sure
when we do purchase properties. And
so what's your thoughts on the 2040 plan for Minneapolis, I guess, specifically?
I'm careful to share my thoughts because I don't think there's enough information out there to really understand. And we've met a couple of people in our network that are probably considered experts on the subject. So I would definitely interview them.
And they're gung-ho about everything, I'm sure.
And the experts aren't gung-ho about
they're not.
it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's the thing. It's like I would interview them and ask them, and I can give you some names. But for me, I just don't think the city's probably like anything looking at massive change that's going to come down the pipeline equipped to take on that massive change. And so personnel, infrastructure, everything needed to fulfill these requests that are going to come in from the 2040 plan probably isn't built out and in place at the current moment. So that's going to keep things a little delayed, a little at bay. So I don't think it's going to have as great of an impact as we're projecting, at least in the short term. Long term, probably, because when you massively change zoning, people are going to figure out how to make money from it.
Right, for sure.
But in the short term, I don't think it's going to have as big of a play as we think it is going to.
Interesting. And you're thinking short term as in 5-10 years?
5-10 years.
The 20 years.
5-10 years.
5-10 years, yeah. For
short term, definitely 5 years. I think if you're going to speculate and try to make money off of this.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, it's called the 2040 plan for a reason, So, like, there's your first kind of indication. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, there's a lot of change happening in town, and I think that there's opportunity in the real estate world to take advantage of that change.
So do you think that for the most part, whenever I meet people that are kind of looking to get into real estate, a lot of course, the very basic objections are kind of like mental obstacles is, but it's already like, look how much it's already appreciated. We're at the top, all this kind of stuff. What do you usually say to those people?
I usually say that if you're playing within the 5 year, you're speculating, you're probably going to lose money. And so if you're looking at long-term buy and hold investments, and that's what real estate should be, it's crackpot cooking, you're going to be okay. I think if you asked your grandpa and he bought 4 duplexes back in the 60s and he still had them, he's probably pretty thankful he had them still.
For sure.
So I say don't get risky with your financing, get smart. If you are getting risky with creative financing, definitely have a few back doors. Capitalize on 30-year fixed as much as possible. But like I said, if you're looking at trying to make money in 5 years, you do have the opportunity of losing that money, and that is where your greatest risk is at. And so for me, I'm a buy and hold investor, so I'm looking at the long term. If I buy today, I'm looking at 20 years out. And if I buy today, hoping that it's going to build in equity, and it doesn't, I better have another plan.
Right, for sure. So, of course, as you know, there's like those 4 pillars of real estate. That you got the cash flow, you got the appreciation, tax benefits, and of course the loan pay down. If you're really only looking at that appreciation and it's not forced appreciation, oh buddy. Yeah, so you got to make sure those other things are in line. Yeah, I think buy and hold investing is one of the smartest things to do, of course. So,
And I think there's what you guys are trying to combat right now with your construction company, but there's a huge shortage in the trades today.
Labor costs,
Very inflated, material costs. I think moving forward, it's going to even get worse. So if there's something that needs to be addressed today, first and foremost, it would be labor and trade costs.
For sure, yeah. I'm seeing that's holding up a lot of people from like flips or even like the BRRRR strategy and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I mean, we've had Ryan does the general contracting as well, and basically he started it mostly because he found that using third parties was just prohibitively expensive to do flips or any kind of rehabbing to make the investments work.
Yep.
Just where the labor costs are, and then where the market's at, all that kind of stuff. So you're just at that unique point.
Yeah, so. Expensive, quality work, time frame. Like there's just a lot that you're giving up by relying on a third party to do that job. But I don't know about you, I don't know how to pour a foundation and
right. So, but
frame out a house, and
it's needed to.
It's needed.
Yeah, it's needed.
It's definitely needed
for sure. Yeah. That's great though. You guys are, kind of leveling up right now, and you're probably going to get into the next year. You said you're in the infancy and whatnot, but you have huge plans to kind of keep expanding and whatnot.
Yeah.
Are there any kind of like last minute thoughts that you have that you want to share with people before, you kind of give contact info if people want to reach out to you if they really jived with your story?
Sure. I would say if you're in real estate today, if you're looking at building out a business, it's important, and this is the stage that we're in right now, is to work on your business instead of in your business. And we're entering into a slow season, just in general. Snow's going to fall.
Yep.
Things are going to freeze over. Things are just going to slow down. Nobody wants to move anywhere right now. And so, and I think that was the biggest challenge Drew and I had last year, is that he's so good at going after the dollar tomorrow. He's so good at, he's our closer. So he's really, really good at generating business today. And I'm really good at generating business tomorrow. And so we entered into a slow season, and he's like, Scott, we should be going to closing tables. We should be executing deals and transactions. And for me, it's like, this is our slow season. This is our chance to work on our business.
Right, for sure.
And so I would say now that we've had a year into it and we're on the same page now, he's like, okay, Scott, if that's your thing, let's do it. And so right now we're starting to work on our business. We're building on our business plan for 2020 and looking at what does side-by-side look like for 2020? What does our real estate acquisition business look like for 2020? And I think don't be upset if things feel slow now. Take that time to work on it and work on your business and reflect and refine your goals and refine what it means to hit those goals and how to get there.
Awesome. Do you have any kind of tactical advice or like what books you're reading or what kind of information sources that you guys are using to kind of revamp for your plan for 2020?
Yeah, I think find a mentor who has a really successful business. Chances are they've probably done some business planning in their past. Ask them questions. People love to share their knowledge and some of the mistakes they've made leading up to it and some of the things that have made them successful. So find a mentor that you can bounce some ideas off of. Traction, as I mentioned, was a really good book at teaching you how to scale up your business. I loved Good to Great if you're looking for a mindset around what it means to grow a business and how to grow a great business. That's a beautiful book. And then do it.
Just execute.
Put pen to paper.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, is that the name of a book?
No. Do it. Maybe I'll write that book.
You should write it.
No, put pen to paper. Is oftentimes we have these ideas and thoughts, and even driving around today, I had to pull over and jot down what I was thinking. Is you just don't take your time to write down your goals, and if you don't, somebody else is going to do it for you. And I think it's important to write down your personal goals, write down your work goals, and strive towards hitting them. Put together real activities that work towards getting those goals accomplished, and you'll be surprised at yourself when you go to do your 2021 plan and how much you were able to accomplish because of it.
Right, for sure, no doubt. Those are all great tips. Excellent. So if anyone wanted to reach out to you, how could they do so?
So I can be found at Side by Side Realty. That's not our website. I wish I would have bought that domain.
I
still can, hopefully. Somebody probably offered it for $4,000 or something. Sidebysidere.com is our website. You can find me at scott@sidebysidere.com or text me, 773-318-2989. I respond to texts.
Excellent. We can get those all down there, right there, too.
Yeah.
So. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Scott. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, it was great hanging out with you and learning about what you do too.
Yeah, we'll have Drew on next time as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, and we could have maybe market update or some beers or whatever. And
we love beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Down. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Take care.
Take care.